The top 10 mutual funds to invest in 2022. There may be no more important guideline in the financial world than diversity. Diversification may help decrease risk while also boosting the possibility of finding a good investment opportunity. Diversification might be as challenging as discovering the next big multi-bagger. True diversification requires a keen eye for detail and a propensity for interpreting all the market has to say soon. Alternatively, a mutual fund. Today's investors don't need to be specialists since mutual funds handle the hard job for them. Mutual funds are one of the most popular methods to participate in the stock and bond markets. Mutual funds enable you to invest in a diverse portfolio of assets in a single fund at a cheap cost. As a result, you'll be able to quickly, conveniently, and affordably build a diversified portfolio. But with hundreds of funds to choose from, how can you choose the best one for your portfolio? Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we aim to give you the best 10 mutual funds you can buy in 2022. Stay tuned to avoid missing out on the future's most lucrative investment opportunities for mutual funds. If you haven't subscribed, please do so and turn on the post notification bell to get future videos post notifications. Without wasting time, let's get started. Number 10. Fidelity Zero Large Cap Index Fund. Nasdaq, FNILX. The Fidelity Zero Big Cap Index Fund is an index fund that invests at least 80% of its assets in stocks from the Fidelity US Large Cap Index, which is made up of 500 firms with large market capitalizations that trade in the US. Microsoft Corporation, a Washington-based computer titan, is one of the top holdings in the Fidelity Zero Large Cap Index Fund. According to Insider Monkey, Fisher Asset Management, a Washington-based investment company, is a major stakeholder in Microsoft Corporation, with 25 million shares worth more than $7 billion. Microsoft Corporation, like Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company Limited, Alphabet, Inc., and Nvidia Corporation, is a company that growth investors are watching with a second eye. Number 9. Voya Russell Large Cap Index Portfolio Class 1. Nasdaq, IIRLX. The Voya Russell Large Cap Index Portfolio Class 1 is a mutual fund located in Arizona that invests at least 80% of its net assets in Russell Top 200 index equities. The fund mainly invests in stocks, convertible securities, and other derivatives linked to the index. With a holding turnover of 6%, Voya Russell Large Cap Index Portfolio Class 1 manages more than $1.27 billion in net assets. The fund's cost ratio is 0.36%. Microsoft Corporation, a tech giant and a computer powerhouse, is one of the top positions in the Voya Russell Large Cap Index Portfolio Class 1. According to Insider Monkey, Fisher Asset Management, a Washington-based investment company, is a major stakeholder in Microsoft Corporation with 25 million shares worth more than $7 billion. Microsoft Corporation, like JP Morgan Chase & Co., Citigroup Inc., and ExxonMobil Corporation, is a company on the radar of top investors. Number 8. Hartford Core Equity Fund Class R5. Nasdaq, HGITX. The Hartford Core Equity Fund Class R5 is a mutual fund located in Connecticut that invests at least 80% of its net assets in common companies in the S&P 500 index. The fund may also invest in stocks with a wide variety of market capitalizations. The Hartford Core Equity Fund Class R5 manages about $11.8 billion in net assets and 22% holdings turnover. The fund's cost ratio is 0.48%. Apple Inc. is a California-based technology corporation and is one of the top holdings at Hartford Core Equity Fund Class R5. Insider Monkey's database showed 120 hedge funds had $146 billion in Apple Inc. positions at the end of the third quarter of 2021. Number 7. Shelton Capital Management Nasdaq 100 Index Fund Direct Shares. Nasdaq, NASDX. Shelton Capital Management Nasdaq 100 Index Fund Direct Shares is a mutual fund located in California that invests at least 80% of its net assets in Nasdaq 100 index equities. The index covers 100 non-financial firms ranked by market capitalization on the Nasdaq exchange. Shelton Capital Management Nasdaq 100 Index Fund Direct Shares manages about $1.31 billion in net assets with a 12% holdings turnover. The fund's cost ratio is 0.50%. Meta Platforms Inc., a California-based technology business, is one of the top holdings of Shelton Capital Management Nasdaq 100 Index Fund direct shares. With shares totaling $38 billion, 248 funds in the Insider Monkey database were long Meta Platforms Inc. at the end of September. Meta Platforms Inc. is one of the companies gaining attention of knowledgeable investors alongside JP Morgan Chase & Co., Citigroup Inc., and ExxonMobil Corporation. It would be best to consider this one keeping in mind that Meta is the biggest stake owner. Number 6. Schwab S&P 500 Index Fund, Nasdaq, SWPPX. The Schwab S&P 500 Index Fund is an index fund that invests at least 80% of its net assets in S&P 500 index companies. The index includes 500 of the top publicly traded companies in the United States by market capitalization. JP Morgan Chase & Co., a financial services business, is a top holding in the Schwab S&P 500 Index Fund. According to Insider Monkey, Fisher Asset Management, a Washington-based investment company, is a major stakeholder in JP Morgan Chase & Co., with 7 million shares worth over $1.1 billion. Number 5. Fidelity U.S. Sustainability Index Fund, Nasdaq, FITLX. The Fidelity U.S. Sustainability Index Fund is an index fund that invests at least 80% of its assets in MSCI USA ESG Leaders Index securities. The index includes mid and large cap companies that trade on U.S. exchanges and have high ratings in environmental, social, and governance business practices compared to their industry counterparts. Tesla Inc., a California-based electric vehicle manufacturer, has a good size of its stake owned by Fidelity U.S. Sustainability Index Fund. According to Insider Monkey's database, at the end of Q3 in 2021, 60 hedge funds worth $10 billion were held in Tesla Inc. This was no different from the Q2, since these were worth $9 billion. Number 4. Schwab Total Stock Market Index Fund, Nasdaq, SWTSX. The Schwab Total Stock Market Index Fund is an index fund that invests at least 80% of its net assets in Dow Jones U.S. Total Stock Market Index SM equities. The index is designed to track the overall performance of the U.S. stock market. In addition, the fund invests in derivatives, mostly futures contracts. Apple Inc., a California-based consumer electronics company, is one of the top holdings in the Schwab Total Stock Market Index Fund. In the third quarter of 2021, 120 hedge funds in Insider Monkey's database owned holdings in Apple Inc. worth $146 billion compared to 138 in the previous quarter. Apple Inc. is one of the companies that top investors are flocking to, and so should you. Number 3. Nasdaq Shelton Capital Management Nasdaq 100 Index Fund Direct Shares, Nasdaq, NASDX. Nasdaq Shelton Capital Management Nasdaq 100 Index Fund Direct Shares is an index fund that invests at least 80% of its assets in Nasdaq 100 index equities. The index includes 100 significant local and foreign companies with non-financial operations. Nasdaq Shelton Capital Management Nasdaq 100 Index Fund Direct Shares owns a significant amount of Amazon.com Inc., a diversified technology company with a focus on e-commerce. According to Insider Monkey, Citadel Investment Group, a London-based investment group, is a major stakeholder in Amazon.com Inc., with 3.9 million shares worth more than $12.8 billion. Number 2. Fidelity Nasdaq Composite Index Fund, Nasdaq FNCMX. The Fidelity Nasdaq Composite Index Fund is a mutual fund established in Boston that invests at least 80% of its net assets in Nasdaq-listed firms. To generate revenue, the fund also lends securities. The Fidelity Nasdaq Composite Index Fund manages about $14.2 billion in net assets and 17% holdings turnover. The fund's cost ratio is 0.29%. Comcast Corporation, a media and technology company, is one of the top holdings in the Fidelity Nasdaq Composite Index Fund. According to Insider Monkey, Eagle Capital Management, located in New York, is a major stakeholder in Comcast Corporation with 29 million shares worth more than $1.6 billion. Number 1. Voya Russell Large Cap Growth Index Portfolio Class 1, Nasdaq, IRL, NX. The Voya Russell Large Cap Growth Index Portfolio Class 1 is a mutual fund established in Arizona that invests at least 80% of its net assets in companies that are part of the Russell Top 200 Growth Index, with a holdings turnover of 13%. Voya Russell Large Cap Growth Index Portfolio Class 1 manages roughly $1.54 billion in net assets. The fund's cost ratio is 0.43%. Visa Inc., a California-based payments company, is a cornerstone investment of the Voya Russell Large Cap Growth Index Portfolio Class 1. 143 hedge funds in Insider Monkey's database owned holdings in Visa Inc. worth $26 billion at the end of the third quarter of 2021. Note that this is a different mutual fund from one covered earlier in the video. That marks the end of today's video. Turning back to you, which mutual fund did you find worth investing in and why? Please do share your thoughts in the comments. Let's engage, and don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe and share the video too, and until next time, stay tuned and safe.